Well, we have a new network, a new time slot, and a new show, but the question is, can Kiefer Sutherland play a character that's not Jack Bauer? Hey guys, it's Cameron for the series premiere of the new ABC show Designated Survivor, and I was definitely interested in this show for many reasons. Obviously, one of them being Kiefer Sutherland, but also because the plot in general. I don't really think there's been a show on TV like this, and especially now when we have an election going on, I think this is the perfect time to do a show like this, especially if you could picture the scenario happening. And after watching this show, I have to say that I really enjoyed this first episode. Now, is it perfect? No. I do think the show definitely does have a few problems. Not a lot of problems, but definitely does have a few things that I think are going to annoy me a bit. But overall, I did really enjoy his first episode. I thought it was very well done overall, and this definitely seems to be one of the most promising shows of the fall season. But let's just get into this first episode because there is not a ton to talk about because this was a very simple first episode, I will say that. But I think the best thing they did in the first episode was setting up the story, because the story we have here is very interesting. But let's just get right into it. We start off by meeting our main character, Tom Kirkman. He is the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. If you guys don't know what that means, I don't really know either. The best way to describe it is he's not really that high of ranking, but he is involved with politics, and he's watching the State of the Union. He's basically the designated survivor, who is the one member of the presidential line of succession who does not attend the event just in case something catastrophic happens and he has to become the president. But that never seems to happen. I guess this has been his position for a while. So he's very cool and relaxed, we see, and he's drinking a beer, and like I say, he's watching the State of the Union. I think he did a very good job of setting up this character just in these first 4 minutes, which the first 4 minutes are among the best of this episode. And right away, he gets this call from his daughter Penny, who I guess should be in bed, and he's being manipulated just by his own daughter by expending her bedtime, and we can see that he's being really laid back about it and saying that she should still be in bed, and the phone ends up cutting out. His phone buzzes, the Secret Service then storms in. We see that something happened, and we don't know what that something is, but he opens the window, and we cut to reveal this giant explosion at the Capitol. We have no idea what's going on, but something really serious has happened actually, and we don't really know what that is, but I thought that was a fantastic way to start the episode. I really loved the way that was done, because just in those first 4 minutes, we get everything we need to know about the show. We can tell that Tom is very relaxed, and that he's not at all like Jack was as a character, and we can also tell that something serious very well happened, and he very well may be involved in it, and we don't know what that is, but I thought it was a very good way of starting it, and I really did love that. So the opening definitely is something that I will definitely credit the show for. So after the opening, though, we do get some context for all the major players, and the most by far is, Kirkman or Tom. Tom, we definitely do get to develop his character a lot. So he's definitely a bit of a pushover at home, doing whatever he's told to do. His wife, Alex, is a lawyer, and he has a son, Leo, who is a typical moody, rebellious teen we see, who we'll get more into his character in a little bit, but we see his son isn't thrilled. He's making breakfast for his family, and Kirkman wants to come home after school to watch his sister. He has a State of the Union to attend, and he heads to work. He's talking to his assistant about the bug event, which I forgot to say. This is 36, I believe, 36 hours before what happened. No, actually, 15 hours later. I'm very wrong with that. 15 hours earlier. And he's talking to his assistant Emily about the bug event and really what's going to go down there. And she's fiercely loyal to him. And he learns that his housing plans for low-income families were actually cut from the State of the Union. And he tries to appeal to the president's chief of staff. However, the meeting goes south when he learns that the president is planning on firing him and giving him some lame ambassadorship in Montreal. So he just accepts his fate because that's kind of just who he is. And even though his chief of staff and wife are both telling him to fight this, we very much see that he's someone who kind of just does what he's told to do, which is interesting to see. And again, especially when you have a character like, Jack Bauer, this is a very different character for Kiefer Sutherland. But I think we did a very good job in just showing how different of a character he really is here. I mean, he's someone who will just appeal to, to anyone who give in to their demands. We definitely do see that here. She wants him to fight against, which is clearly a demotion. She doesn't want him to move the kids, Penny and Leo. He agrees. He's going to make this work. And we then cut to the present. Tom and Alex are being rushed to safety now that he is a designated survivor. The Capitol's been attacked with no word on the president or his detail. The Secret Service then gets word that the Capitol and the Congress are gone. They actually have been killed, and that makes Tom the president of the United States. And this is something that obviously he wasn't very well prepared for. He doesn't really know what's going on, and definitely you can't really see this guy becoming the president. And I thought that was actually very cleverly done, because when you have someone like Kiefer Sutherland and you see someone, you know that he's capable of playing Jack Bauer, just developing his character in this first like 7 minutes, you can very well tell, why someone would not believe that this guy could be president. I wouldn't want this guy as president. He's a pushover. He does whatever people want him to. He doesn't really make his own decisions. He doesn't want to make, well, he does, but he always kind of does it by appealing to people or giving in to people's demands. He's not someone who does things based on his own merits, and we definitely do see that here. And I thought that was very interesting the way that was developed. I thought that set up the concept very well. But then we get into the real plot of the show, and let's just get right into it. So, in the bar, onlookers watch the TV reports the Capitol's burning with sirens in the background ringing out. An FBI agent gets into her car and leaves. We don't know who she is, but immediately Tom and Alex are sworn in as the president and first lady. And this is, immediately, like, they really don't have any time to process this. They're quickly separated, with Tom going into service operations, a command center with dozens of people working on securing this situation. And Tom asks that everyone take a moment for their fallen friends. Obviously, he's very upset to see that all these people just died, people that he worked for, and now these people are now working for him, we see. And the Deputy Chief of Staff, Aaron Shore, takes photos of the historic event on his phone. We see he's whisked away to the presidential bunker where his wife is taken to the residence to wait for their kids. It's very chaotic and hectic for everyone, obviously. And we then see, after this, that Tom wants to go around the table to meet everyone, but no one's allowed to talk to the press, and his head has been spinning. He isn't really sure on what to do, because again, he's just been assumed into this role, so that's understandable. He runs to the bathroom, he ends up throwing up, which again is very understandable why he did that, and we see a speechwriter, Seth, is in the other stall. He doesn't know that he's talking to the new president, who he thinks need to actually step aside, and he calls Tom by the wrong name, Kirkland, calling him a follower, not a leader, and that's very much what Tom is. He is, in fact, a follower. He's not a leader. He needs to assume that role as a leader, and we don't know if he's really ready to do that. And they come face to face. Says that Seth is embarrassed. He tells Seth he has 52 minutes to write a speech for the public, and he needs to do whatever he can to help him write that speech, because again, he's really not that prepared for it. And I thought that was very interesting that we saw that. We didn't really know, we didn't really know what was going to happen there, and I like seeing Seth, really see him as someone who's not the president, because again, you really can't see this guy that way, which I thought was interesting that we saw. And we then see the FBI is working with EMS, who is digging through the rubble for survivors. They don't know who's responsible yet for the explosions, and they start moving on collecting evidence. The city is in a disaster of ash, fire, and rescue crews. It's completely chaos, and the speechwriters are all upset that Tom has become the president. They don't really see why he would be the designated survivor out of everyone. They think that this is a complete disaster and that there's no way that this is going to go well, and they just don't think that it's a good thing. So I thought it was a very good scene. I really did like the way that was done, and I really did love that overall. So Tom's trying to figure out how all this happened, because he really doesn't know how he, out of all people, would be the designated survivor. Alex also thinks it's surreal. Penny's scared. Alex wonders if they should run, get out now that they are a target. An agent then interrupts them. Leo isn't at, and basically an agent then interrupts them that Leo isn't at a friend's house, that they need to track him down, and we'll get into that in a second, because I have a lot to say about that. But the Iranians then move some ships into the Middle East. The general takes this as a show of force, wanting to do something about it. Tom doesn't want to just go to war and make some big bold move. He believes that there's a better, more diplomatic way to handle the crisis, so he's going to do it his way. And what he decides to do is actually meet the Iranian ambassador in the Oval Office and demands that they remove their ships from the Strait of Hormuz, or he'll be forced to attack Iran. He doesn't want to do it, but he promises that he will. And in an instant, basically, he makes it clear that he is who we want to be in charge. And I thought they did a very good job of, in that scene, just showing that he does in fact want to do something, that he can in fact be the president. He's capable of doing it. He just doesn't really see himself that way. He doesn't really have the confidence, but just through this, he is actually becoming confident, and I really like that. Then we get a scene that's very troublesome. We see Leo, Tom's son, he's busy clubbing, he's selling bags of drugs, and yes, he is in fact a drug dealer, and after making an exchange, the Secret Service show up, they take Leo in, they pinged his phone, found him, Leo wants to know where they're going, he thought that he was headed home, and we'll get into Leo once we talk about the characters, but I have a lot to say about his character, I'm going to talk about it in a little bit, but, basically, Emily's, Tom's assistant, Tom's former assistant, she's trying to get in, but she isn't on the list, and she doesn't really know, where she stands now, so I thought that definitely was an interesting scene. Seth is then going over the speech with Tom and Alex. Seth reminds him that he can't be relaxed, he needs to be stronger than ever before. He is, in fact, speaking to the world. It's a lot different than when he was just, chief of housing and urban developments. Now he is the president, and he can't just be chill about it, because he's chill about everything, and he can't be chill about this. He needs to actually do something about this, and we then see that it looks like the Ukrainians are rushing to cut off the oil supply while the U.S. is down in their luck and in turmoil. Emily actually has made it through the gates, and she wants to see Tom. She wants to be by his side when he needs her the most because they had this bond, and she knows that she's been the one that's able to get him out of the slump when he's always in a slump. But right now, again, she doesn't really fit into that role. So the general wants to do something to show force, to show U.S. enemies that they are still strong, even if they are down. Tom is very much against it. He doesn't want to do anything just yet, even if the whole table is against him. So he gives the general the go-ahead to prep his bombers. He doesn't want to just take another strike. And we then see the scene with Leo and Penny, which I thought they definitely tried to develop Penny's character. I thought they did this pretty well, where Penny's talking about how she's very scared about becoming the president and how it's a big deal and everything, and how especially since there was a terrorist attack. But Leo tells her straight out that their dad isn't scared. Is he really? I mean, I can't really tell. I mean, I think there's a part of him that is, but I think as he's going on, he's starting to really get into this, and he actually does want to do something about this. And Tom overhears this. I think knowing that his children are scared, I think this kind of gives him the motivation to want to be the president, and I definitely did like that. So we then meet FBI agent Hannah Wells, who she's on her cell trying to find someone she loves. A bomb is discovered in the rubble, and we don't know who she's trying to find, and I like that we don't know, because it definitely sets up her character pretty well. A bomb is discovered in the rubble, everyone runs for cover as a bomb-sniffing dog and an officer circle around it, so we know definitely that there's more going on here, that this isn't just, this wasn't just a fluke, that there is in fact another attack out there. The bomb squad goes in, suited up to remove the bomb as the FBI looks on. They clear the scene after it is determined to be a dud. Nothing happened, we see. So they pretty much think that this was just, an accidental attack, but, we'll get into this. Tom then meets with the Ukrainian ambassador. He wants him to pull their destroyers back. He threatens to attack Iran if he doesn't dock his destroyers, like I said. He means business. He doesn't want to get off on the wrong foot. So he gives him 3 hours to pull back. And again, we know that Tom's not actually going to attack Iran, but just doing that, makes them fear him. And I think he did a pretty good job with that. So some of the FBI thinks that it's ISIS, while Wells thinks otherwise. She thinks that it's someone, a group, who does not want to claim credit for the attacks because they already have more planned. She knows that they definitely have more planned. So, obviously, she doesn't just want to strike right now. So Tom then tells Alex that he has to do it. She tells him that she's always on his side, and Harry and the general then meet to talk about, and I thought that was a good scene, seeing that Alex, wanted to run away from this, now actually wanting him to assume this role and actually wanting him to have to play up this role as being the president, and I thought that was definitely well done. So Harry and the general meet to talk about how they can remove Tom. He isn't experienced, and they want to do whatever they can to remove him. They do not trust him. They just don't feel he's the right person to do this, and the U.S. is in a state of war. The general reminds him they have to do something about it because they just don't see how someone like Tom can be in this role as president, and especially when there's a war going on, he definitely is not the one to handle it, and I can totally understand that. Again, the guy we saw in the beginning of this episode, you can't at all see as president, and it's still kind of weird to see him as president. So at the end of this episode, we then see Seth and brings Tom the speech. He takes his glasses as he goes to live to speak to the American public about the change in office and the attacks, and basically gives his first speech as the president. He's forced to remove his glasses, and because I guess they take him more seriously without them, and that is the way the episode ends. But let's get into this episode overall, because I definitely do want to talk about it. So overall, I thought this was a really good premiere. I definitely love the way everything was set up, and there's a lot of mystery still going on. There's a big question of was this attack intentional or was it an accident? I'm willing to bet that it was intentional and that it definitely was someone that wasn't ISIS. It was definitely some sort of terrorist group that's out there. That whole story I'm looking forward to, but I'm much more interested in the story with Tom as president. I think they set that up really well with his character in, where he's going to go and what's going to happen with him. But let's get more into what I really want to talk about, starting off with the cast in this show. Obviously, I think the thing that drew most people into the show was Kiefer Sutherland, seeing how, how great he was as a character of Jack Bauer, and he definitely had a big role to assume, because what I loved about this episode is that Tom Kirkman is very, very different than, someone like a Jack Bauer, and they did a very good job of not making us say, oh, that's just another Jack Bauer. Jack Bauer would not handle the situation the way Tom Kirkman is. Tom Kirkman is a pushover. He's kind of, I wouldn't say, he's a pushover. He's very laid back. He likes to meet people's demands. I wouldn't say he's a pussy, though, because we did see in this episode when he's ready to do something, he's ready to do it, and he makes sure that he, gets done what he wants to get done. I think it's just that he's never really had to make decisions on his own, and this is the first time he has to make decisions, and now that he does, he's going to do whatever he can to make sure that this country is, secured in the way he wants to. And I think they also did a very good job with putting glasses on Tom Kirkman, because that's really what separates the character from that of Jack Bauer. Just seeing the glasses, seeing how laid back he is, and how not badass he is. They did a very good job, because you can tell that Kiefer Sutherland in general in this show, they want us to see Kiefer Sutherland the actor and not Kiefer Sutherland the badass. And I really do like seeing that, because Kiefer Sutherland is not just an action star. He happened to be in 24, but I feel like he's had a reputation since then, and I think the show is really proving that he's a lot more capable of an actor than just someone who is fleeing into terrorist attacks and saving presidents and things like that. Instead of saving the president, he is the president, and I think it's a much different role than what we've seen Kiefer Sutherland do so far, and I can't wait to see how far he goes with this role in future episodes. Now, Natasha McElhone as his wife, Alex, I thought did a really good job on the show. She didn't have a ton to do in this first episode by herself, but the one scene that really did resonate with me is a scene where, she's now the first lady, and she used to be called Alex because of just how laid back and things were, but they talk about, oh, no, you're the first lady, we need to call you Mrs., Madam, and she's just not used to that, and I think it's gonna be interesting to see how she does, and in that scene, I really did love what they did with her character. I like seeing how supportive she is of Tom. I just don't know if I'm gonna like her character overall. I could see her getting a little bit annoying, but overall in this first episode, I think she did a pretty good job. I definitely liked her overall, and the chemistry between Kiefer Sutherland and Natasha McElhone, it's definitely there. Like, I think the second the episode started, you definitely saw they had very good chemistry. I think they're gonna work very well together, and I can't wait to see what else she does as a show goes on, because right now she doesn't leave a huge impression on me, but I'm sure as the show will go on, I'll really start thinking about what I like of her character. And the same with Italia Ricci, but the difference with Italia Ricci in the show, Emily's character, is that now that Tom is the president and not the chief of staff, I have no idea what role she's going to play in the show. I mean, yeah, she's kind of been the one to calm him down and the one to help him with things, but now he's the president. It's a much different type of role, so I don't really know what she's going to do in the show or where her character is going to go. I just know that I really do like Italia Ricci as an actress. I like what I saw of her in Chasing Life, even though I kind of couldn't get into that show, but I thought overall she's a very good actress. I like what she did in this first episode. I just don't really know what I think of her. And the same with all the FBI agents we met in this episode. Adam Canto's character, Aaron, or Cal Penn is Seth. I don't really know what I think of them yet. I think they're good actors. I just don't really know what I think of their characters. Actor who I did like on this show, but I definitely am going to have a problem with, is Tanner Buchanan as Leo Kirkman. Now, here's the thing. Tanner Buchanan, I think, is a capable actor. I don't think that he's bad in this first episode. In fact, I thought he was really good in that scene where he's calming down his sister. He was really good there. This first episode, though, to me, paints Leo as nothing more but a teenage cliche who just does drugs. And you guys know that is the worst kind of character. He seems like those teenagers that ruin shows. That's what this character seems like to me. Now, he might not turn out that way, but in this first episode, he definitely seems like he's going to annoy me. And It's not just the first episode. The promo that they showed is Alex disciplining her son, about him doing drugs and things like that. And if they're really going to focus on this a lot, it's really going to piss me off. You guys know I can't stand it when shows do that. I think it's extremely cliche. I think it's very been there, done that. And there aren't many ways to make something like that relevant. Now, maybe the show will do that, but I just don't really know how they're going to do that. He seems so cliche to me. And if he was doing literally anything else but doing drugs, maybe he was just a troubled teen or he was a bully or something like that, then, or even if he was the role of his sister where he's afraid of the terrorist attacks, then maybe I'd like him more. But right now, he just seems like that typical edgy, rebellious teenager that has no place in the show. I don't really know why he's in the show. If they were to cut him out of the show altogether, I think the show would be a lot better, especially since Penny, his daughter, I think is enough to carry the show. I mean, yes, she's a little girl, but when she's in the show, she definitely did make an impression on me. And again, I don't think Tanner Buchanan is bad. I just don't really know if I'm going to like his character. I'm very worried about him, but we'll have to see what happens with him as the show goes on. Someone who I do think they set up pretty much just as well as Kiefer Sutherland was Maggie Q as Hannah Wells. Now, a lot of people may say that her storyline feels kind of separate from the rest of the show, but I feel like that's kind of the point. She's the only one that feels like there is more going on in this terrorist attack, and that it wasn't just one small thing, that this was in fact something that, something that is going to be continuing, that whoever was behind it, they're definitely not finished. And I'm really interested in seeing where her storyline is going to go. Also, who is she so concerned about? Obviously, someone she really cared about either died or were injured in that day, and I don't know what's going to happen with that. I can't wait to see where her character is going to go. I really love what they're doing with her so far, and Maggie Q in general, very good actress, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how she does in the rest of the show. I think she was just as great as Kiefer Sutherland. I think they set up her character just as well. I just want her storyline to not feel different. It feels like it's kind of a separate show, and I don't want it to feel that way. I want to really like her character, and I think she is really good in the show. I just want to feel like that has a place in the show, and right now I do, but I am a little bit worried that the terrorist storyline might take up too much of this first season. However, the cast overall, I think, is very promising. I really do like what they have to do in the show, and I think, in general, this is going to be one of the most promising casts of any show in the fall, definitely. But let's talk more about the directing and the writing, because I really do want to talk about that. The directing in this first episode, I thought fine. I thought the tone was definitely very well executed. You definitely could see this as kind of like a House of Cards or something like that. Definitely not as fleshed out as House of Cards, but you can tell this is less of an action show and more of a political drama. And that's why I'm a little bit worried when it comes to the writing. The writing for the show is very good in terms of Tom Kirkman as president. I think that is enough to anchor the show. How people perceive him, how he's not really ready to assume this role, how he's immediately thrown to this role, how different it is from a chief of staff, how indifferent he feels and how he doesn't really feel like a president, getting more into his psyche. That is enough to anchor the show. But then you'd have this whole terrorist attack storyline, and I'm just a little bit worried that the show will quickly turn from a, political drama to your stereotypical action, terrorist thriller, and I really don't want the show to be that. I don't think the show needs to be that. I don't think you guys want the show to be that either, and I don't really want to see that kind of show. Not that the show would be bad if it was that necessarily. I just don't know if this show really should be that. I don't want this to at any point feel like 24 2.0. I want this to be like its own separate thing, and I'm worried that the terrorist stuff is going to keep it from doing that, because a lot of Jack Bauer, a lot of Jack Bauer's, stuff on 24 felt very much like, a lot of it had to do with terrorist attacks, and I don't want the show to just deal with that. I want it to deal with more things than that, and I'm hoping that we do as the show goes on. But the writing overall, I thought very well set up this character, and they did a very good job with getting into this character, showing how different he is than characters played before, and I think they did a really smart thing in casting Kiefer Sutherland in this role, mainly because, again, we're used to seeing him as an action badass, but here he's not that, and I really did like seeing that. I thought the way the show was filmed, I thought looked very good. This definitely does feel like this situation could happen, and I'm wondering if the situation has happened. I'm sure it's happened before, but I haven't really heard of something like this happening, so I thought it was interesting we saw this portrayed, especially nowadays. I definitely could see this situation happening, and I thought it was honestly very realistic the way that they portrayed it, with them not really knowing what to do, with them thinking the possibility of running away. I definitely really did like that. I do think this episode was a little bit too fast-paced, especially with Alex wanting to run away and them deciding not to run away. I thought that storyline could have had a little bit more weight to it, and some of the stuff they did with that did go away a little bit too quickly. But again, it's only the first episode, so I can't really get too upset at what they did there, because they did what the first episode needed to do. They developed the characters, they showed me where the show could possibly go, and that alone, that's enough to hook me into a show. If a show is able to develop its characters and really, understand its characters and, set up the story pretty well, they did that really well in this first episode, and that alone is enough of a reason to get me to stick around for episode 2. I'm very much compelled in the story. I'm definitely going to, check out the rest of the episodes of the show, and I can't wait to see where it's going to go in the rest of the series. But overall, guys, in my review of Designated Survivor, let me know what you guys thought of this first episode overall. Where do you think that we're headed? What do you think people are going to think of Tom? Will Tom be able to prove that he can be president? Do you like his character overall? Did you like this premiere? Do you have the same problems I do with Leo? Leo's, like I said, my one complaint with the show. I just hope he doesn't turn out to be that stereotypical teenager. They could turn around and give me something else, but we'll have to see. But that's my review. Hope you guys enjoyed. Overall, definitely very impressed with what I see from the show so far. And I will see you guys in my next, which will be for review of the series premiere of Pitch, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.